Cold Calling 101, tips and tricks to finally figure out how to cold call. Hey, I'm Donnie Bovine, the CEO and founder of Success Champions Networking and the author of Endless Stream of Referrals. This is Growth Mode, a business development and sales podcast centered around how do you actually get sales done right. Hanging out with me as always is Kevin Snow, the sales and automation tactician and genius. Hang out with us as we dive in. How do you actually get cold calls right? So cold calling, man, this is a passion project for me because so many freaking people despise and hate cold calling. So we may end up having to break this up into a couple episodes depending on how I dive into this and what we do with it. But Kevin, I know over the years as well, you've done a ridiculous amount of cold calls, had some success with it. So I think we should start off with understanding why so many people hate cold calling as a whole. Then we'll work through how do you actually get really, really good at it. So why do you think so many people are hung up on cold calling and don't want to do it?
Because it sucks.
The way to sugarcoat it.
Well, no, it's we're basically, when we tell people to cold call, we're basically telling them to jump on a phone and start dialing random people and get told no over and over and over. There's, other than the times when you get the appointment set where you get a little adrenaline rush, other than that, you're just getting beat the fuck up.
Yeah,
totally. So it's not an enjoyable thing. And for some reason, I think you have a little, say, S&M going in you, but because you like it. You actually...
Hold on. Let me clarify that. I really don't like cold calling. I've just learned to enjoy it. And there's a big difference between actually like doing it and enjoying the process. I've just put a bunch of tricks in place to make cold calling a lot easier endeavor. And so you can find success without mentally beating the shit out of yourself. I mean, because most people, when they're cold calling, man, they're sitting there at their desk, hunched the fuck over, hand, right up to their face, all curled up in a little fucking ball, dialing and praying to God either somebody doesn't answer on the other end, or praying that the person will give them 5 seconds to hear them out. And they start stacking the rejections, taking that shit fucking personal. And when that happens, man, it's just, misery loves company. And they're like, fuck it, I'm out. I'm just not going to keep cold calling. So for me, I did that shit for years. And I just forced through, like you did when you were doing a lot of heavy cold calling. You just forced through, and we bulldog through the mental game, because if we didn't cold call, we didn't get appointments, we didn't get deals, we weren't fucking selling. So we had to figure it out. And, that shit will work. If you just beat the shit out of the phones long enough, you're going to find success. It just sucks doing it that way. So I want to walk through now a couple of things that you can be doing to fucking make cold call work. So, Kevin, one of my favorite stories of yours is, what was one of your most successful cold calling adventures? I think it was on a weekend, maybe. I don't remember for sure, but
it was on a Friday. It was a Friday morning, and we actually had a sales team outing planned for that afternoon. The owners of the company were taking us all out on a boat, having lunch, the whole thing, basically going to spend the Friday afternoon drinking on the company dime. And so me and my buddy, instead of running appointments, because we were going to come into work in, shorts and a t-shirt and normal boating attire, we decided we were going to cold call. So we came in together, we each had our lists set up, and we started telemarketing. And the rule was you couldn't have the first beer until you set an appointment. So we had a 12-pack of beer with us in the office, and we started telemarketing. And just going back and forth, and, you set your appointment, you could start drinking. So there was obviously motivation right there to get on the board quick. But by the, we probably did it like 2.5, 3 hours worth of dialing. I had set probably 6 or 7 appointments. He had set 10. We'd gone through a 12-pack, and we were primed to go hang out with the team. And we got to the event, and everyone's like, "Oh, what did you do?" Because everyone else basically took the morning off, and we're like, "Yeah, we prospect." And they're like, "You did?" I was like, "Yeah, we sat at the office and cold call, and Bryce set 10 appointments, and I set 7." And they're all like, "Oh, okay." But that's why he and I were constantly fighting to be the top person on the team,
Right.
because we were putting in the reps.
So my first tip is to be successful at cold calling is drink. No, that is not the tip at all. I mean, it helps. Don't get me wrong. I mean, my first time that I finally figured out cold calling was I had a bottle of rum next to me in a shot glass, and I was doing shots to get really good at it. But now the first tip, man, is never call alone. Because what happens a lot of times as you're cold calling, you're in your head, you're getting rejection, and you stay in that rejection mindset, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. But when you got a buddy around that can be a smart ass, be like, "Oh, dude, you totally fucked that one up," or they can celebrate the wins with you, give each other high fives. You're both walking around the room, and you're doing the thing. You don't stay in your fucking head, right? You don't stay, all closed up and freaking the fuck out. You actually are able to make some dials and not beat the shit out of yourself. And I like when you find a really smart ass friend and do it, because I like the ball busting back and forth. That's probably the military in me. But when I really fuck one up, I want my buddy to go, "Dude, you totally blew that call." And then I'm like, "All right, fucker, you call next," and it just have some freaking fun with it, because it makes it a lot easier. So really find somebody that can do dials with you, and just go, you go, I go. It makes life a hell of a lot easier. I think the next biggest tip that screwed everything up, and to go kind of Kevin's success story, is they didn't sit down and like pull up the computer screen and start figuring out, okay, who the fuck am I going to call, and spend time trying to search for all these people to call, and in 3 hours make 10 dials because they spent most of the time looking for it. So my second biggest tip for being effective at cold calling is to already have your list pre-built, right? Already have a list of people that you're going to be calling on in front of you, so you're not spending that cold calling time freaking, trying to find the people to call. And inside that tip, don't fucking prejudge that list. Once you make it, freaking go through and uh, get it done, and call each name, call each person, and make sure that you get every name on that list. Don't skim it, right? Just call everybody on their list. I think another key point to Kevin's story that really hits home one of the big tips here is they had this kind of looming deadline to get this done. I mean, everybody else in the company is on the boat, drinking their asses off, partying, having a good time. So they wanted to get there. So my third tip in this is to set a deadline. My favorite deadline maneuver is to get a fucking or a kitchen timer, one of those stupid ass wind up ones, and set it on your fucking desk, set it for 15 minutes, and fucking go. And then you do nothing but dial in that 15 minutes. And when that turkey timer goes off, or that kitchen timer goes off, throw your fucking hands in the air just like you jumped off the back of a fucking bull, and watch what happens as you have that looming deadline. It helps eliminate a lot of that second guessing and a lot of that self doubt.
I think if you're going to be successful at cold calling, telemarketing thing, you need to have the right tools too. So don't just be calling off your handset or a desk phone. You got to have a headset so that your hands are free. It allows you to talk more normally. You can throw in the hand gestures when you're emphasizing things, even though they can't see them. It helps you when you are putting the right context for them. Have your script. Know what you're going to say. Even if you work off bullet points and you don't work off the whole script thing, you need to have sat down and thought about, all right, so what am I going to say? What's my value proposition that I'm pitching that's going to get them to set a meeting? Because remember, you're not trying to sell. That's not your job at this point. Your job is just to get in front of the client, and then understand, hey, what are the reasons they're going to say no, and how am I going to answer that? Otherwise, you're going to get surprised because you didn't think about it, and then you're gonna be like, or you're just gonna say okay and not try and battle through the objections.
Yeah, I love that, dude. And I would add one more in there with the headset. You made me think about is stand up and walk the fuck around.
Yep.
Don't sit at your desk because your posture will come through on that call. And think about it when you're up and walking around, you're in this more natural state. So you're talking with your hands, you're pacing around, and it allows you to be more free flowing with the conversation.
It'll also
And
allow you to be
I think
more. It'll also allow you to be more focused on the conversation because you're not going to be staring at your 2 or 3 screens and everything that's on them. So that I am all for that standing up thing.
For sure. And I think if we look at the kind of the last portion, the last tip we throw in there is to truly make it a conversation. Quit thinking about it as a cold call and put it in your head. How would somebody cold call me successfully? What would have to happen? What would I say? And make the whole thing an actual conversation. So I think as we work towards wrapping up this particular episode, one way to look at it all is kind of here's a rundown of the tips and tricks that we just talked about so you can catch them all really, really quickly. So trick number 1, don't call alone, right? Find a freaking cold calling buddy. Trick number 2, have a damn list already pre-made, then ready to call that you're not going to skim. Trick number 3, set a damn timer, right? Have everything ready to go and know that you have a deadline looming. Tip number 4, have the right tools, have a headset, right? Have your call sheet, have your CRM already locked and loaded. Tip number 5 or 6, wherever the hell I am, know your script, right? Know exactly what you're going to say, know how you're going to say it, know how you're going to engage. The next one, stand up and walk around. Don't sit your ass at the desk, right? Get up and actually walk around and have a real dialogue. And the last tip then is make it an actual conversation. Don't treat it as a cold call. Think about how somebody would cold call you. So really quick, down and dirty, guys. I hope that helped you out tremendously. And do us a favor. If you got any value whatsoever out of this episode, please make sure you're subscribed. If you're on YouTube, ring the bell. If you're listening on podcast, subscribe or follow. And please tell one other person about this. It means everything to us. Love you. Mean it. See you. Bye.